Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're here to do a really popular video that I really like doing and you guys really like watching because I've done it for the past 2 years, and it's a state of 3D. Now in the last 2 years, I've done a state where I talked about just Nvidia 3D Vision in my video and talked about how to get it to work and all that kind of stuff, and most of that still stands true, so I'm still going to leave a link down below in the description on the latest 2021 if you guys want a full tutorial on how to get Nvidia 3D Vision. But in this video, I want to talk about what's changed in 2023 because there are some good changes that happened with Nvidia 3D Vision if you guys are still interested. Talk about what it is really quickly and all that kind of stuff. But I'm also going to talk about 3D in general and where it's at in 2023 and how I use it in day-to-day because I love 3D. I just came back and watched Avatar: The Way of the Water, and that 3D was fantastic. I went to a movie theater that was IMAX and it had the new laser projector. And that movie solidified exactly why I love 3D so much. The 3D in it was fantastic. We need more movies with 3D. We need games in 3D again. And we're going to kind of go ahead and talk about every single way in my home that I use 3D and talk about how you can use it as well. So not just Nvidia 3D Vision, but we're going to talk about the 3DS. We're going to talk about what I do with the Oculus Quest 2 and the Oculus Quest Pro and how I use 3D on there. We're going to talk about 3D on my projector and what I do on there. We're going to talk about PlayStation 3 and their 3D and how I use that. So kind of a state of 3D in my collection and the state of 3D in general out there in 2023. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming tech is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, so the first thing we're going to talk about when it comes to the state of 3D is, of course, Nvidia 3D Vision. This is the first thing that came out that really got me interested in 3D. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but this is how I kind of got into it. And I started realizing how awesome 3D was. I'll never forget when I first made my first 3D Vision computer back in 2006 when it first came out, and how in awe I was with how good this 3D was and how good these games were coming out in 3D and how sad I was when they got rid of it, which is exactly why I'm making this video today. Like I said, I've made 2 videos of this already in the last 2 years about a tutorial on exactly how to make this work in today's standards, but there have been a few things that have changed that we definitely got to talk about in this State of 2023 video. But I'm not going to go over every little detail about how to get it set up on a computer because I'm just going to give you an overview, because if you want, you can watch the 2021 video that I did that kind of gives you a tutorial on how to do it from scratch. But I will give you a quick overview. So this is my PC right here. This is my specific PC for 3D Vision only. Why do I have a specific build for 3D when I have another PC that I use right there? Well, the question for that is, or the answer to that is really simple. For Nvidia 3D Vision and the Nvidia 3D Vision monitors, like I talked about in my previous 2 videos, the easiest and most reliable way to get this set up is to use the older drivers when Nvidia basically cut off 3D Vision. So I believe it's 425 or 452.22 is the last compatible 3D Vision driver that came out, and that is what I have this Windows running on. So I have Windows 10 and it's stuck on those drivers. So of course I'm not going to use it as my main gaming rig, because that means I can't play newer games and stuff like that because the driver's kind of stuck behind its times. So that's kind of why I have this stagnant on here, and that's been that way for a while now. And of course I also upgraded over the last year to a 2080 Ti, because that is the most powerful graphics card you can put in a 3D Vision computer with those drivers, because Nvidia released the 3080 series after those drivers, so the drivers of the one I just said, the 452.22, doesn't recognize a 3080, so you can't use them because it's not the right driver. So the 2080 Ti is the most powerful thing you can get, which is exactly what I have in my Nvidia 3D Vision computer. And then of course we got to talk about the monitor. The monitor that I have here is an Asus monitor, and it is a 3D Vision 2.0 monitor. So if you guys don't remember Nvidia 3D Vision, they always had 2 different they had 2 technologies. They had the Nvidia Vision Kit that first came out, and then they had the Vision Kit 2.0 that came out that basically allowed more light to go through the glasses and was improved in every single way, in my opinion. This is the version 2.0 glasses that I have right here for Nvidia 3D Vision. That works super well. I actually have stored somewhere the Nvidia glasses from the first one when someone comes over, but these are the glasses that came with Nvidia 3D Vision 2.0. They're rechargeable and all that kind of stuff. And what's awesome is the fact that the screen that I have here from Asus was also 2.0, and it works extremely well. And the light that you can get from it, which is the whole big deal around the 2.0 version, was how much light. It wasn't as dark as the original Vision 1.0 was. Is fantastic on this monitor as well. Now, what I talked about in my previous videos is basically how do you actually get this set up. And again, I'm going to do a quick overview if you guys understand this quickly. If not, you can watch my other video. But essentially, NVIDIA 3D Vision, like I said, I have this software installed. That's the first thing. You get Windows 10 installed, and then you install this software here. It is called 3D Fix Manager. And then you can actually just go right into the drivers area, and you can actually see that you can actually install the 3D driver right from here. The software takes care of everything. You can see the one I have, 452.22, is the latest 3D Vision driver that you can have on here. And it keeps track of most of your games that you have on here installed, and it just makes things really easy. And it's awesome. And it installs the drivers for you, and it activates 3D for you, and all that stuff is kind of ready to go once you're done with this software. It's really, really simple. But then you obviously have the games, and I talked about this in my previous 2 videos, but when you install a game, they usually have a fix, because some of the games that are coming out may be newer games, so they're not always older games. Some of the games that came out when 3D Vision was around, maybe they had a couple issues, and now we have a great community in the 3D community that actually creates fixes for those. Or maybe it's games that never had NVIDIA 3D Vision support officially by NVIDIA, but was actually updated recently over the last couple years by the community, which is fantastic. Like Life is Strange, for example, and Life is Strange 2, Lego Star Wars, The Skywalker Saga. Those are games that obviously weren't around when NVIDIA 3D Vision came out, but the community has actually had released patches in this software, and you can just install it right from here. You can see the 3D Fix category right here. For some of the games, we'll just tell you, hey, install the 3D Fix right here. You just click it, and then you're good to go, and then you hit Play 3D, and you're kind of ready to go. So this software makes it really easy to get involved in NVIDIA 3D Vision, and it's awesome. But side note now, what happened new in 2023 that we need to talk about is the fact that we got something called Geo 11 by some of the community members as well. Fantastic 3D community of all the people who also love 3D gaming and stuff like that. And it's basically almost like a replacement in a way for NVIDIA 3D Vision. So what Geo 11 does is 2 things. One, if you already have a 3D Vision monitor like I do, and you're using the NVIDIA 3D Vision glasses, and you're using a NVIDIA GPU with those drivers that I just talked about, the 452.22, what Geo 11 gives to you is just a lot more games to be able to play. Because what happened is that any Unreal Engine 4 game, basically what it is Geo 11 is basically using any of the games that were made in Unreal 4 specifically, and making patches for them universally. So for example, if I open up my Steam library here, Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3 is not a game advertised to work in 3D. It's not a game that shows up in 3D Fix Manager or anything, because it was never updated that way. But with Geo 11, you basically download a universal fix, which is called the Unreal Engine 4 Universal Fix. Again, you could just Google Geo 11, or you could join the Discord with us, and I'll be able to help you out with it if you guys need the help. But you should be able to find it really easily, Geo-11. And basically, the community of guys who made this are just awesome. Basically, you just copy these files that are sitting in here, and you just put them in the directory of the game where the exe file is, and that is it. Nothing else that you need to do. And it universally works with anything that's Unreal Engine 4. So these guys say that it should work for most of the games on Unreal 4. They obviously haven't tested every single game. But what I did is I was like, you know what, I'm going to put that theory to the test, because they have about 30 games on their website that they've tested that it works great for, that have worked great because I've used them. Like GTA, the trilogy that just came out recently, which is awesome on it. Final Fantasy VII is awesome on it. Kingdom Hearts 3 is awesome on it. You know, there's a lot of great games that they made compatible because they're on Unreal Engine 4. But I was like, you know what? Let me try a few things here, and let's see if I can try games that aren't on their list. And they said it's supposed to work. Let's see. So I downloaded Nickelodeon Kart Racers, a game that came out literally a few months ago. I dropped those in the folder, and bam, I have 3D going on these games. And not only is it 3D, but they're perfect 3D, because the Universal Fix is so good in Unreal that the shaders are all really good. Everything is usually really, really good. You may run into some games that are Unreal 4 that have some shader issues or stuff like that because it's a Universal Fix, but from the games that I've tested so far, it's been an awesome, awesome experience, and how easy it was to get these games to work. Another one, Hot Wheels Unleashed, that came out last year, that I love playing, and I've been playing it a lot on my Steam Deck and stuff, is now fully compatible with the Unreal Universal Fix for 3D, and it works awesome in 3D. So that gives you a lot more flexibility. You can download it, and you can obviously now use Unreal Engine 4 games, and a lot of them will be compatible even if they weren't part of the 3D Fix Manager that I talked about in the previous 2 videos. So that's awesome. But here's where the problems start arising, and this is part 2 of what changed in 2023. As we're getting more of these Unreal 4 engine fixes, and as we're doing other things, when you run 3D on a PC, you got to remember you're running these games twice and you want them to be smooth. So as we keep progressing and they keep making more and more fixes, that's fantastic. But now we're playing more demanding games. We're now not just playing Nvidia 3D Vision games that came out, in 2011 and stuff, in 2012 when they were making those games. Now we're playing current stuff that has been updated. Things like God of War got updated with Geo 11. And God of War looks fantastic, but they're really demanding games, especially on my screen, because this is a 1440p monitor that I play on, not a 1080p one, which they also made, but this is one of the few 1440p monitors that they had. So I'm pushing my limits to my PC even more. And obviously I'm stuck with a 2080 Ti because of these drivers, so sometimes you have to manipulate the settings a little bit to kind of make them run smoother. So far, I haven't had any issues running anything. A couple of the heavy hitters, like God of War, I do get like 35 to 40 FPS if I max everything out, but you can obviously lower them if you need to and stuff like that with the 2080 Ti. And it will still look great, and it's amazing in 3D how those games can actually look like. And again, you can manipulate settings or lower the resolution to 1080p instead of 1440p like I have, and it will work. But as we keep progressing into 2023 and we keep releasing more game fixes, we're going to run into an issue. We're going to get to games that the 2080 Ti is not going to be able to run in 3D without lowering everything to like lower medium. So, what Geo 11 also provides is the fact that you can actually now run some of these Unreal games in a 3080 Ti setting. So that's not how I'm doing things right now because I have a dedicated build like I showed you guys with all my 3D stuff on here, and I still think it's the better way to go because you get the best of both worlds. You get the Nvidia 3D Vision, and you get to play all of the Nvidia 3D Vision games that are compatible with Nvidia 3D Vision, and you get to play Geo 11 games that I just talked about. But if you have a 3080 Ti or a 4080 Ti and all that kind of stuff, and you always wanted to play 3D Vision games, well, now there's a way to actually do it. You could do it with a 3D monitor just like before, or a 3D projector, or a 3D TV if you have one of those, whatever you have, and it will work on the newest drivers released by Nvidia, and you can use your newest GPU. The catch is that you'll have to only use the Geo 11 games, so it's only going to be the Unreal Engine games that they work on, or whatever games they come out with that are specifically released for it. So you're not going to be able to play the whole suite of Nvidia 3D Vision games, even though that's actively being worked on all the time. But as of right now, that's currently with the state that they're in. But it is awesome that we have a future that they're still working on getting Unreal Engine 4 games in 3D, and we're going to be able to use our newer GPUs when the time comes that a 2080 Ti is just not going to be good enough anymore. For me, I'm really happy with the way my system runs right now and where we're at, but it's really good that that's being worked on, and it's awesome for the people who don't want to do a specific build like me, that they now have another option to kind of lean into. And again, that's really, really simple. You got a 3D monitor or a 3D TV, you connect your PCD, you update it to the newest drivers that Nvidia has, you download the games that are compatible that are Unreal Engine 4 that are on the Geo 11 website, and you just do exactly what I just talked about. You move those folders from one to the other, and it should work if you activate 3D on the 3D TV or the projector, and you should be good to go. There are a couple more settings you need to tweak in the actual files sometimes, because some of the files, when you're running it on the older GPUs, you usually have to use DX9 instead of DX11 for most of these games, so you'll be running them in DX9 if you're running the newest GPU and drivers and stuff like that. But it's not really a big deal because it's still going to look fantastic. Again, it's awesome that option is happening because we're going to need it when we keep getting fixes for newer games as the times keep rolling and the 2080 Ti is not good enough. But for me, if you're asking me what you should do, I would say build a specific Nvidia 3D computer like I have. If you guys have the means for it, get yourself a 2080 Ti because you'll have the best of both worlds still. And that's still my favorite way to do it. And the 2080 Ti is still plenty powerful for at least the next couple of years. Because even if we have to minimize a couple of settings here or there, it's not like the 2080 Ti is not going to be able to run 3D games at all for a while, even with these fixes coming out. So that is the current state of Nvidia 3D Vision right now in 2023. We did get some great updates. We got a lot more games to play now. Like I said, we talked about some of them here with the Lego Star Wars, God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Sackboy Big Adventure, Kingdom Hearts 3, Final Fantasy Remake 7. So a lot more fixes have come out. A lot more games are not compatible. Geo 11's making games even better that are supported with Unreal Engine 4. It's letting people use even cards that like the 3080 and the 4080 now if you want to do that. So it's awesome if that's something you guys want to look into. And yeah, that's the current state of where Nvidia 3D Vision is currently sitting in 2023. Let's go ahead and talk about the next 3D item in my collection. Alright guys, so the next one we're going to talk about here is the PlayStation 3 and its 3D capabilities. So right around the cusp after the 3D Vision came out. The 3D Vision on the PC started coming out in 2008, like we talked about, and it was a really big deal to me. And then 3D TVs started becoming more mainstream, and they started releasing everywhere. And then PlayStation came out with this PlayStation 3 TV. I believe it was in 2011 when this thing released here. And obviously, I never actually had one of these when it first came out. I did have a 3D TV back in the day, so that's where I played my PlayStation 3. But I never actually had the PlayStation 3D official TV that you see here. So this, I really like the design of this because it kind of reminds me of a PSP. It definitely fits the PlayStation branding and everything. I don't have my 3D TV anymore, so now, of course, I play my PlayStation 3 games primarily on this TV here, as you guys are looking at here. And I have a lot of my 3D games on here. This is a modded PlayStation 3 where I have a lot of my games backed up, so I have easy access to all of my games that I play and stuff like that, as you can see. And I have MotorStorm Apocalypse kind of sitting right here, so if I were to start this game up right here, I mean, this game had two great things going for it. They had a feature called on these 3D glasses here that two people can actually wear these 3D glasses here, and they would each get their own view on the TV. So only a few games supported it, MotorStorm being one of them. And basically, if one person were to wear these glasses, instead of having a split screen where people would be used to split screen where you would have, you know, this person playing on the left and the other person on the right and it'd be their view. When wearing the 3D glasses, each person would have their own TV. It would look like the whole entire screen is taking up your view, so you wouldn't have to split screen anymore when you actually did that, which was awesome when that was the case. Because then you can play split screen gaming without actually splitting the screen. So that was a really cool feature. Unfortunately, only a handful of games actually supported it. Like I said, MotorStorm was one of them. But as you can see here, it gives you the option. Most of the games on the PlayStation 3 gave you the option to kind of play it as soon as you logged on. Now, there was a lot of great games on the PlayStation 3 that actually offered 3D. MotorStorm Apocalypse is right above that list here. And it's such a good game here. And another one, of course, is Uncharted was another one that's really good on the PlayStation 3. Because let's not forget, the PlayStation 3 didn't have, you know, all this crazy amount of power and all that stuff that 3D required. Because remember, 3D means that the game is essentially running twice. So you didn't find like the most graphic fidelity games on the PlayStation 3 or anything like that. But what they did have was a lot of good exclusive games. They had Wipeout, they had Uncharted, they had MotorStorm Apocalypse, and they had some really good 3D games. Like I said, those three being on the top of the list. I've actually done a top 10 of my favorite PlayStation 3 games before, so you guys can check that video in the description below if you want. But this game is so much fun. Not only is this game great, as it's always been before, it's also fantastic in 3D, and it's usually the one that I have kind of running on this machine when I want to show off to people, because it's such a good game. People love racing games and stuff like that, so I usually have this one running, and people have a lot of fun with it. One of the things we need to talk about with these PlayStation 3 glasses that a lot of people don't know about is the weird on and off switch. So when you guys want to charge these things, because it took me a while to figure this out when I first got them, if you guys have the PlayStation 3D TV, and you also have these glasses, obviously there's this little thing at the top that you kind of remove, and that's how you charge the glasses. It's just a micro USB cable. However, if you were to plug this in right now, the light right there would not turn on to charge. Why, you ask? Because you think it's charging, right? Nope. If you don't look at the right side right here, there's a little on and off switch right here. It's like a switch that you move back and forth. If it's not in the on position, then the device won't even charge. You would assume that putting it in the on position means that it's wasting battery, but no. It also needs to be on to actually charge the glasses. So something to keep in mind if you guys have these PlayStation glasses for this TV, that's how that works, and that's how you actually have to charge them. Your glasses are not broken or anything. You just have to turn that on before you can actually charge the glasses. And that's also how you use it as well. When it actually is charged, you switch that's on to actually use them. So here is MotorStorm running in 3D. Of course, when you guys are looking at it there, you can't actually see what 3D looks like. But like I said, MotorStorm is one of the great games on the PlayStation 3. And of course, it being an exclusive, just like Uncharted, just like Wipeout and stuff like that. As far as 3D goes, it's great to be playing it on here because you can't really play it anywhere else. And it's so much fun. It runs really well, even in 3D, and is just one of my favorite games without the 3D. The 3D just makes it that much better. So the PlayStation 3 3D TV is a fantastic way to play your PlayStation 3 games. It's also a really good way to get into 3D gaming. If you guys want to get into 3D games, this is definitely one of the easier ways to do it, because you can either get one of these PlayStation 3 TVs, or you can get a regular 3D TV if you have one of those and kind of plug this in there and kind of be on your way. Even though it's not going to have the greatest, highest fidelity graphics, it's still going to be a ton of fun to be able to play this game in 3D and other games that the PlayStation only had exclusively on it. So for me, that's why I keep this PlayStation 3D around, and I love playing the exclusive PlayStation 3 games on it in 3D, and it's so much fun on this PSP style screen that I have here with the PlayStation 3. Now, one of the other ways that I actually play PlayStation 3 3D as well, besides that small, the PlayStation 3D TV that you guys just saw, is I'm actually lucky enough to also have a Epson projector. So this is a 3D projector. It's the Epson 5040. And as you can see, I have another PlayStation in this room as well that's being used on the projector right now. And the Epson projector also has, I have 4 3D glasses that work with the Epson projector. These are the Epson branded ones. And I use that to play my PlayStation 3 games on here as well, which is really cool. And I do the same thing with Xbox 360. I have an Xbox 360, as you can see there. My PlayStation 3 is the Japanese model, and then I have the Xbox 360, because Xbox also had some really fun 3D games as well. So we can't forget about the Xbox 360. They had their own set of exclusives as well. They just didn't have a branded TV like the PlayStation 3 or anything like that. But they had their own set of exclusives that were really awesome in 3D that we can't forget about. So I play both of them on this projector when I want to get fully immersed and stuff like that, like you can see here. And these both of these consoles aren't on monitor or anything like that, so I actually have to use the disc and stuff like that. But there's, like I said, a lot of fun games on the PlayStation 3 that you can play on here. Another one that I forgot about that I play on here all the time is Super Stardust HD. That's a really, really fun game to play on the PlayStation 3 in 3D. So this is my setup of how I play PlayStation 3 in 3D on the giant projector. We'll come back to this projector because there's a couple other things that I do on here as well. But for now, like I said, it's the PS3 that I play on here, depending on the mood I'm in, if I want to play over there or on the projector. And my Xbox 360 gets played for 3D games on here as well. I actually realized that I have not done an Xbox 360 video like I've done with the PlayStation 3 as far as my 10 favorite 3D games on the Xbox 360. So look forward to that and subscribe to the channel if you guys want to check out. I have a giant collection of Xbox 360 games on these shelves, and we're going to be doing soon my top 10 3D games on the Xbox 360 the same way I've done on PlayStation 3. But there's a lot of good games on the 360. Some of them are duplicated of games that are also on the PS3, like Batman Arkham Origin or Batman Arkham Asylum, I believe, and NBA was on here as well as on the PS3. But there's obviously some exclusives on here as well, like Gears of War 3 being in 3D. So look forward to that video in the future. So the next thing we're going to talk about when it comes to 3D is, of course, the 3DS. Another one that came around the same time the PlayStation 3D TV came out and stuff like that in 2011. And the 3DS was amazing when it came out, but had some drawbacks. So on the original 3DS that came with 3D, it did have 3D, but you had to keep your eyes perfectly centered with the actual system. So there was nothing else you could do. You had to look directly, at the system. If you went like this or anything like that, the 3D effect would be lost, and you wouldn't be able to see your game well. So the 3D was awesome. You didn't have to use glasses or anything like that. It was the first kind of no glasses 3D that we ever seen, and it was awesome. But it had that limitation. Then after that, they came out with the newer 3DS XL that fixed that issue and made the 3D so much better, which is the model that I have here in front of me. And this fixed the issue really easily because now you can just look at the camera right there. The camera would be watching for your eyes. So you had a little bit more movability. So you didn't have to keep it directly centered in front of your eyes. It actually kept the 3D with you when you bobbled the 3DS back and forth. And it was awesome on the 3DS. Obviously, you can see this one here is also modded by me, so I have a couple of 3DSs in the house, and I usually keep one modded and one non-modded when I can. And this houses all the 3DS games that I have in my collection already, and it just makes it easier to play and pick up and take this with me anytime I want. But there are some really good 3DS games, and obviously, speaking of exclusive, Nintendo had a bunch of exclusives in 3D. Kirby's Triple Deluxe, so many good games. Animal Crossing, of course. Mario Kart 7 was fantastic in 3D. We had a lot of great games on here, and my favorite one of all that really surprised me on how good the 3D actually was definitely the Sega 3D Classics collection. And this kind of surprised me because you wouldn't expect a collection to have one of the best 3Ds on the system. But when I first played this is a fantastic 3D game, and it really shows off the potential of 3D on the 3DS. And then, of course, there's also Super Mario Land that was specifically designed with 3DS in mind that definitely showed off the 3D on here. But the 3D on the 3DS was awesome. It needed no glasses or anything like that. I mean, it's everything we could have wanted from a system like this, and it definitely improved it on the new Nintendo 3DS XL when that released with the 3D. The only unfortunate thing is that I guess Nintendo, when 3D was kind of dying in the later stages of the 3DS, you know, they came out with the 2DS, which removed the 3D, which was unfortunate, and that means that some of the later games in the 3DS lifecycle just removed the 3D altogether. But there are so many good games on the 3DS. It makes it easy to play. You don't need any extra hardware. You don't need an extra TV. Of everything on my list as far as playing games in 3D, if you want to use non-glasses, I mean, this is it. This device is awesome. And it was used really well in a lot of games. You just got to find those games. And again, I did a top list of 3D games on the 3DS, so you can see that in the description as well. But I'm really, really happy with my 3DS, and I hope that you guys are enjoying 3D on it, because I think the 3D on it is awesome. The next device that I want to talk about that I have that I use for 3D is the LumePad here. And this is, as you can tell, an Android tablet. But this is an Android tablet that specifically has a 3D screen on it. And obviously its main use case is, or the main use case for me is for movies. And I actually have, you can see Jellyfin and stuff on there that I have my 3D backups that I have on Blu-rays backed up to my server. And I can access all of these 3D movies on it. It also has a 3D player, which is awesome. So you can, you know, play other video files and stuff like that. It even takes, if you watch regular YouTube on here, it even tries to take that 2D image and make it in 3D, and it does a pretty decent job at it as well. They do have some games on the marketplace that are 3D as well. I actually have some of them downloaded, like Asphalt 8 is probably the biggest one that they have that people would recognize by name, and Modern Combat. If you guys remember that, they have Crossy Road in 3D. People will recognize that. Then a couple of other games that you see here, like Fire and Ice and stuff like that. So there's like an Android store that I specifically have for 3D. But what my main use case is for this is just being able to watch 3D movies with no glasses. Because yes, this is another device like the 3DS that the 3D looks really good, just like the 3DS, but there's no glasses required, and it's on a giant 10-inch screen like this on a tablet. It's awesome. The only thing that holds it back is obviously more support as far as more games and stuff like that, because there's not a lot of games in the store. But as a movie viewing device, if you have 3D backups of your Blu-rays and stuff like that, like I do, this is an awesome device to be able to watch your movies anywhere you go on a plane or anything, and still watch them in 3D, not have to worry about bringing glasses with you or recharging them or anything like that. And it's an awesome, awesome experience. It's a great way to watch movies on the go, in my opinion, in 3D. And that is the LumePad. The next thing we got to talk about when it comes to 3D is, of course, the Oculus Quest 2, or whatever VR headset that you're using. Of course, I have an HTC Vive back there and stuff like that. But VR is an awesome device when it comes to 3D. I mean, obviously, the games themselves are 3D. You're in the environment, and you feel more immersed in any other 3D game outside of VR can be. If you're a fan of 3D like I am, that's kind of how I got started in the VR and why I was so excited about it, because I already knew I loved 3D, wearing these glasses and playing Nvidia 3D vision games, and, you know, playing PS3 games and watching all these movies and stuff. And then tenfold, now you get to put a headset on your face that kind of like straddles the real reality to fake and stuff like that in video games, and you're kind of in this world, and now you feel more immersed than ever. And VR has come a long way since it started. Obviously, there's a lot of growth there still. Obviously, we want games to look as good as they do on like our PCs and on our Xbox 360, but being the Quest is our most popular headset that we have right now, a lot of the games are designed for this, and that means that it's more mobile. It's a mobile processor and they're a mobile GPU, so the games and the fidelity aren't as high as we all want them to be yet, but things are improving every day, and there's still plenty of games on here in VR that I love playing regardless, and if the games aren't as good looking as we want them to be. And if you want the games to look as good as you want them to be, then you can obviously get a VR headset for the PC, like I have here, the HTC Vive Pro 2, or you have the Index and stuff like that. There's still improvements to be had on there. We want more PC games created, but what is there is outstanding. I mean, there's so many good games that if you're a fan of like 3D and this technology, that are really going to blow you away in VR. And that's obviously how I started myself in VR, and it's been an amazing experience using the Quest and all these other VR headsets, and it's given me that dream. It gives us that dream. The whole point of us liking 3D back in the day was because we wanted to be more involved in 3D. and we want it to be, you know, submerged into another world and stuff like that where we're watching these movies. Now, think about playing games like that in VR, where, you know, you can't see anything else. You're in there with your headphones and stuff like that, and the games are really popping out at you. You really feel like you're in the environment. It takes 3D to the next level. So 3D, in my opinion, is really, really solid on here. But we have another piece on the Quest 2 that really sets it apart, and that is 3D movies. 3D movies is something that I still watch to this day. I watch 3D movies on my projector that I showed you guys before. That's where I watch most of my movies, because I have those 4 pairs of glasses that you guys saw. And obviously, I love 3D in there, and sometimes me and my wife watch them together. I have a gigantic collection of Blu-rays that I have, and I still collect them to this day. They're harder to find now because a lot of people have stopped making them for the US. You have to import them from Japan and the UK and stuff like that. And I'm assuming at one point they're going to unfortunately stop. But I just came back from seeing Avatar: The Way of the Water, like I said in the beginning of the video, and it was fantastic. And it solidified why I love 3D movies so much when it's done right. And, you know, I got into the original Avatar, and that was what got me into movies. And now I have all my 3D backups on my server because of this as well. So not only do I watch them on my LumePad from that device I showed you before, to watch them on the go and stuff, but in VR, it takes on a whole nother level, guys. If you guys have not experienced watching 3D movies in VR yet, it's awesome. I mean, it's what 3D movies always should have been. I mean, imagine being in a 3D environment like a movie theater where you really feel like you're in a movie, which is exactly what it is. Having these speakers on you like I have right here, where you have the sound going, and then you have a virtual 120-inch, 300-inch screen, whatever it may be in there, and you're in a movie theater. You look like you're sitting in a movie theater, and the 3D movies that I've watched on there is exactly how these 3D movies always should have been, because you don't have to worry about things having the crosstalk on. Sometimes the projectors have crosstalk, which is where like the images are kind of like bleeding into each other, so you see a double image essentially. You're not going to get that in VR because it just works really, really well. I mean, it's designed for 3D movies, in my opinion, of how well it actually works. And that doesn't even talk about the social aspect. The fact that I can put a 3D movie on my PC and stream it to my Quest, and then stream it to 10 other friends around the world, no matter what state they're in, and we can all watch a 3D movie, is outstanding. And these 3D movies look, again, fantastic in VR, guys. So if you guys have not had a chance to do that, that's definitely something I recommend. It's definitely my favorite way of watching movies, and I can't wait till these VR headsets keep improving on the resolution. The Quest Pro is my favorite way of watching it, and now because the resolution's a little bit improved, and the colors on there are improved, so I don't use my Quest 2 for watching movies anymore. I use the Quest Pro because it's slightly better, but regardless, it's such a good experience, and that's my favorite way of watching solo 3D movies, is in there with other people socially and stuff like that. And of course, my projector comes in right next to it because I have a real 120-inch screen sitting next to me that you guys saw earlier in the video, and I have a bunch of Blu-ray 3D movies, and of course, I have surround sound, which can't be replicated, of course, on a Quest and all that kind of stuff. So it's like a movie-type experience in my home. So between both those combinations, I have movies covered, and it's so much fun, guys. If you have not tried VR for movies or games, definitely should check it out if you're a 3D fan. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that overview of the state of 3D in 2023. As you guys saw in the video, I love 3D, and I have a variety of ways to enjoy 3D in my home, and I love it. I know it's hard for me to showcase to you guys how cool 3D is if you guys have not experienced some of these products for yourself, but it's awesome, and there's a variety of ways for all of us to be able to get into 3D. The pinnacle of 3D, in my opinion, still to this day, is one of two ways. When it comes to games, there's nothing better than Nvidia 3D Vision, and even though there's a hassle to get into it and get it all set up, I think it's well worth the effort. And then there's also the Oculus Quest 2 or the Oculus Quest Pro when it comes to movies. In my opinion, it's the best way to experience movies, right slightly above a projector, and slightly above, because the projector does have better resolution, but there's nothing like going on a Quest 2, having access to all these movies, watching it with other people on big screen and stuff like that. I mean, there's nothing like that. And the 3D was made for watching movies in VR. I mean, the 3D effect really takes a hold of its own in there. You don't have to deal with any artifacting or any of that stuff. It just works extremely, extremely well in VR. But I love 3D in a lot of variety of ways. I mean, there's nothing better than using your 3DS with no glasses required. And on the LumePad that I showed you guys, that no glasses are required to watch movies on the go. That's awesome. So there's a PlayStation 3. The games on there are awesome, and there's some unique games in there like MotorStorm that are fantastic in 3D. So there's a good variety of ways to play 3D, guys, and I hope this video gave you a good state of where 3D is. I hope that Blu-ray 3Ds start getting released again, because now they're kind of not even releasing in the U.S. and they're just kind of releasing out there in, you know, Japan and stuff like that. Not really releasing here. I hope that like VR continues to go mainstream, and maybe that makes 3D movies come back as they start putting them on the headsets and stuff. I don't know, but I know I love 3D. I'm going to keep it alive as long as I can in my collection. So, if you guys have any questions and of anything you guys seen in today's video, I know it was a lot, leave those questions down below, guys. If not, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.